Diederik Wolsak is a registered therapist who believes humans can let go of the past and the future and learn to focus on the whole of life rather than its fragments. Wolsak is the director of the Choose Again Society, and it is my pleasure to welcome Diederik Wolsak back to Studio 4 to tell us more, an improved Studio 4.
A magnificent Studio 4.
Yeah. We're off the North Shore. Isn't that good? So Choose Again, what is it?
Choose Again is an organization that works with people in crisis, mostly, to transform their fear-based core beliefs into more workable, love-based, for lack of a better word, core beliefs.
So fear-based, I'm not good enough, I'm stupid, I'll never make it. No. Any fear-based belief?
Any fear-based belief that invariably are made up at a very early age. So between ages of 0 and 4 or 5, we make up a whole bunch of beliefs, and that's the self that I think I am then, and I continue walking through life with that self till things really go off the rail, and then I realize I don't need to be that self at all.
And sometimes we try to mask those thoughts with drugs or alcohol, bad behavior.
Or good behavior.
Or really good behavior. How so?
Well, you can look at an extraordinarily successful businessman who works 12 hours a day, who has exactly the same core beliefs as someone who's lying in the gutter on East Hastings. Both are not good enough. One masks it by working really hard and being extraordinarily successful in the world, and the other says it's not going to work anyway.
Extraordinarily successful in the world, but inside...
Miserable.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Lonely.
Very lonely. Loneliness is probably the biggest fear that we have.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not being alone, feeling lonely. Feeling isolated.
Yeah.
What do you do to help people who are isolated, angry, raging inside? How do you help them?
Well,
Where do you start?
Where do you start? You start by doing a number of different little processes that lead to a discovery of what the core beliefs are. And that's the biggest thing. Once I know what my core beliefs are, and there's usually about 3 or 4 or 5 that we're working with, then I can link feelings and experiences directly to that core belief.
Example,
you cut me off in traffic. It's very common. People get very upset about that. Or you go ahead of me in a line at Safeway and you have 12 items and I only have 9. Something comes up. And the feeling that comes up then can be taken back to a very early experience where a similar feeling came up. Not a similar experience, but a similar feeling. That feeling was chosen by me based on the belief that I have about myself. So
I can't just let it flow. I'm furious. I'm raging.
You can let it flow.
Drive you off the road.
You can let it flow. You can drive me off the road. You can do whatever you choose to do, but it will continue to repeat itself till you connect it to the belief and you say, that's not me. I made that up.
Is your work based on other work, attitudinal healing work? What's the core that runs through your programs?
The foundational philosophy would probably be called, could be Buddhism, could be any form of thinking where I teach that I am the author of my experience entirely. No one else is. There's no blame. Yeah.
Darn, it's so easy to say it was his fault.
Exactly. But it never gets you anywhere.
No, true.
So
accountability, big, right?
Accountability is 100%, and the great thing is that everybody's off the hook because there's no hook. Basically, everything that I do is chosen by me. Everything you do is chosen by me. My reaction to you is chosen by me.
The good and the bad.
Absolutely.
How difficult is it if somebody is severely wounded to change a thought? I believe you can change your thoughts and change your life at some level, but how difficult when it runs deep in your soul is it to change how you feel?
It depends how addicted you are to that feeling. If you're addicted to that feeling, it gets to be tough because you don't want to let it go. But the phrase deeply wounded, for example, wouldn't enter my mind. Because I don't think anybody is deeply wounded.
You don't?
No.
But what about somebody who's been in a horrific circumstance, a Holocaust survivor?
I'm a Holocaust survivor. I spent 3.5 years in a concentration camp.
And
I turned it around and looked at what it actually does mean, and it means nothing. It means what I want it to mean. So I can suffer the rest of my life, or I can say, wow, that was an interesting experience. There's a lot to be learned from it.
I can step back.
I can step back.
And I can say, this happened to me. I can't change it. I can't go back and change it. I can learn from it.
Yep.
What did you learn from it?
What I learned
you
from
personally?
it, that I'm not a victim. That's a big thing to learn. So nothing happens to me against my will. So everything that happens because I chose it to happen. I can take that to the extreme level and say I orchestrated, for lack of a better word, the entire thing, or I can take it to a level that's much more workable in a day-to-day life, and that is say I get to experience it how I want to experience it. I get to interpret it.
Exactly.
That is my power.
I may not be able to change what has happened. I've been fired today. I may not be able to change that, but I can change how I think about it.
Yep.
I can make it into a good thing.
Absolutely.
Good things to come.
And that's the foundation. One of the foundations is that nothing ever happens that is not for the best. So everything that happens eventually is for the best.
At some
Hard
level.
hard to
That's
see.
very hard to see, and
Hard
it's
to
very
see
hard to get
sometimes.
there. You often say you can let go of the past and you can let go of the future.
Right. Because the future is nothing but the projected past, so there is no future.
But at 2 a.m., as you know, we wake up and we ponder the future and we think about the past, letting go of someone, letting go of an idea. So what do you do maybe you don't wake up anymore at 2 a.m.?
No, I don't anymore. I used to a lot.
You used to a lot, and so what do you do at that point when you are creating a not-so-rosy future?
When I'm thinking of thoughts and beliefs and stories that cause anxiety, then I go back to who am I really? And who I really am cannot be hurt. Who I really am is part of oneness. Who I really am is part of truth. And so everything that seems to come up has a purpose, and I need to turn it around and say there's another way of seeing this.
Jerry Jampolsky, as you know, said, love is letting go of fear.
Yep.
Letting go of fear is a big thing for all of us. Fear of death, fear of life,
Fear of love.
fear of commitment, fear of happiness,
Yep.
fear of success.
Yep.
How do you start? When you take your clients to Costa Rica, correct? And when you're in that circumstance, where do you start? Day one.
Start by listening. Start by listening to what people are saying. Start by listening what's underneath what they're saying. Start by listening to what could the fears be? What did they make up that they're afraid about? Because everything they're afraid about, they made up. There's nothing to be afraid of, ever. So there's something that they made up. What is it they made up? What is it they made up based on who they think they are? And once you get that who you think you are is not who you are, that I don't have a character, the character I made up, I can change that. Once they get that, they start working.